All right, well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time zone you are. Welcome to today's Connect and Learn session. My name is Brett Nelson. I'm broadcasting live in the middle of the night. I'm broadcasting from Salt Lake City, Utah, and I'm excited to be with you today to share some concepts around winning the day, strategies about how to rise up in this VUCA world that we live in right now. So as we go through this session today, I want to share with you kind of three concepts here. First of all, just for those who are never heard of the word VUCA, it's one of those words that floats around quite a bit, and you may have heard it in a sentence and didn't want to ask the question what it means. Well, it's an acronym, and we love acronyms here. Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. It's the new normal, if you will. VUCA being can be applied to lots of different contexts. We didn't invent it. It's something, if you look it up right now, VUCA World or VUCA in Google, you'll have lots of different people that have published on this. Really what it comes down to is, how do we look at the world right now? Well, it's volatile, it's uncertain, it's complex, and it's ambiguous. That would pretty much do it. But what do we do with that? It seems like it's a scary place to live in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous location or world that we live in. So what do we do? So what I would share with you today is a couple different things. It's not going to get any slower. It's probably actually going to be faster. And sometimes I feel like this, standing there looking at the tube, just screaming by and say, oh my gosh, I need some time. I need to get a handle on what's going on for myself, for my family, for my team, for everyone else, and just be able to understand, okay, how do I stop the train for a second? How do I stop this VUCA world that keeps turning faster and faster and faster? So this is what I share with you today. There's three things, three keys to help us rise up and win the day. First, create clarity. Second, create structure. Third, create growth. And then I'm going to issue a challenge today to you all that are listening to the call either today, right now, or in a recorded a little bit later. So let's start off with create clarity. What do we mean by clarity? When we think about what it comes down to is once the research that comes back to the most successful people in the world, especially in different contexts where there's lots of performance, a high-performing organization or high-performing person has strong goal clarity. And what we mean by that is when there's very clear on what their goal is, what does the experience look like, nothing else matters. And essentially what they're doing is saying, if I know in a VUCA world that is volatile, uncertain, it's scary, it's lots of change and uncertainty that's going on, if I know exactly what my goal is and how strong and how clear that is for me, I know what it's going to feel like when I get to the top of that mountain. I know what it's going to feel like when I accomplish my goal. We're able to now create what's somewhat of a tunnel vision towards that goal, so that all of the things that are outside of that goal don't exist. Well, you may ask, well, they do exist though. There's lots of energy and there's lots of things that are there's people and there's things and situations and circumstances that are in play. Yes, but it starts with you looking at the person in the mirror that you see every day. How clear are my goals? What am I really doing? What do I want to accomplish? Where am I headed? And it starts with you. So as we're feeling this uncertainty, we're feeling this volatility through this, ask yourself, what's my goal? And how clear am I on that goal? And with that context, and say, okay, how do I put those blinders on? We need to look at a couple different things. Love this quote here. When the only thing that is certain in life is uncertainty, then why fret about what we can't control? Well, interesting, right? A lot of energy right now, especially, is talking about and really focusing on things that are outside of your circle of control. So I would invite you to sit down and ask yourself, if you're finding that there's just so much uncertainty, there's so much negative energy that's drawing you away from that initial goal, that initial thing, that focus of what you want to accomplish, ask yourself, what can I really control? What is within my circle? I would invite yourself to take yourself to coffee within your house, maybe a different part of your house to create a different energy, or your apartment or whatever, and ask yourself, what's in my circle? What are the things that I can do today? What are the things that I have 100% control over? And focus on that. Stephen Covey talks about those there's centers of influence and there's centers of concern. Those are outside of your circle. Do we need to be aware of that? Do we need to be aware of what's going on in the world around us? Absolutely. Yet as we start to create some in the volatility and the uncertainty of that, let's be very clear about the things that we can control and not control. And really, why worry about the other stuff? I've shared this metaphor quite a few times with people. It's like looking at this tree here and say, how did that tire get there? Well, does it really matter? Because it's there. Is there anything we can do about it? Well, you could cut it off, but why spend energy on focusing on things that we can't control? So step one, as we're talking about creating clarity, is be very, very clear about what's within your control and what's not, and focus your energy and focus your activities and everything that you do on what matters the most and what is within your circle. One of the things that I would share with you that's really interesting about brain science, and I've done quite a bit of work at this through my career, is there's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system, or the RAS. And what we can actually, the research has done is with the things that come into us, our brain would actually explode if we actually process every piece of data and every piece of input and information that came to us on any given day, any given time. So our brain, being smart as it is, has created this filter system. It's called the RAS, or the reticular activating system. What it does essentially is it takes all the information and focuses on what's the most important to you and what's most relevant to you. Now, the interesting and the good thing about this is we actually get to set that filter. We get to set that for ourselves. So, for example, if you've ever said, I've never done this before, well, and I love this opportunity, what will happen is now you're filtering your brain to look for more opportunities to do that. Or if you're saying everything right now is terrible, well, what you've done now is you've set your RAS to focus on things and look through the lens of everything being terrible. And it becomes somewhat of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So as I would invite you, as you create clarity around this, be very conscious, be very, very, very aware of the filters and the things that you allow to process through your filters in your brain, and your thoughts and your visions and things that you read and things that people that you surround yourself by, because they can affect that. And they can actually start making you more concerned about the things that are outside of your control, to the point where you actually become almost paralyzed, and I can't do anything because I'm so just worried about this. I'm so concerned about that I just shut down. So control your filters. Look at that. Look at, if there's people that are around you, there's situations that are around you that you can't control, and you say, you know what, I just don't need this energy, man. Cut off. Change the filter. You get to make that choice. Love this quote. Wherever you are, your focus is directed. That's where your energy is going to go. Whatever you allow in your space will eventually become. We get to choose this as humans, as people, as adults, as very smart, intelligent people. We get to choose the type of people and the type of input and the type of situations that we come across every single day. And it's either going to drive us towards our goal or drive us away. There's not really a middle ground. And so as we think about what creating clarity for ourselves, asking ourselves, is this helping me stay focused on my circle? Is this helping me getting towards that? Is it creating, am I able to shut this off and look at and create that tunnel vision towards my goal? Or is it making me concerned about everything else that's going on outside of that and how much energy is wasted there? Or rather, not even wasted, just invested in different areas. So I'd encourage you to think about, how do I create clarity for myself? How do I do that for myself every single day? Set intentions. Now, the interesting situation where a lot of us are working remote or working from home is that we don't necessarily come into the office every day and kind of have that experience of filling up your coffee and sit down and plug into the machine and see how things are going. It never stops. The work's always there. There's not a separation between that. So I'd invite you, as you consider, to sit down and say, all right, what are my goals? What's my goal today? How do I create clarity? We'll talk about this here in structure in a minute. But the idea is, how do I set this goal and say, what am I clear about this? What's in my control today? What's in my circle? What are the filters that are coming in? What's my intentions? What do I want to accomplish today? And set your intentions every day. Every single day, set that out. Some people do affirmations. Some people do goals. They have goals stated. They look in the mirror. Lots of different techniques that you can use to do that. But set your intentions. Set your directionals every single day. Now, the research, it's again with so many people working remotely, they say, well, have these touch bases with your team every day. Why? because we need that. We need that direction. We need that support for each other. And that's one way of doing that. So as we build this out, ask yourself, am I clear on my goal? Am I crystal clear so I know what it's going to feel like when I get there? I know what I'm going to accomplish when I get there. What's in my circle? Being very clear about what's in with the specific things that I want to accomplish within my goal, within my my sphere, my control of the things I can do, and set those intentions daily. Watch your filters. All right, I'm going to pause real quick for questions, comments. Not seeing anything at this point. We'll give it a second. How are you creating clarity for yourself? How do you do that? Any thoughts? All right, if there's questions, please go ahead and post those in the Q&A. All right, so we've created clarity. We talked about the importance of creating clarity. Now let's talk about creating structure. Now, if you've gone through emergenetics, this means we're talking about green brains, about structural thinking preference, and this may be things that we're a little bit of allergic to, okay? As we talk about creating structure, let me ask you a question. Do we need more VUCA? The absence of that personal discipline, those daily routines, and the structure creates more conflict and anxiety for yourself. What am I going to do right now? What am I supposed to be focusing on? Do I respond to this email? Do I do this later? When do I do this? You're creating more VUCA for yourself. And so I'd invite you to consider and saying, what is my daily routine? What is my structure? How does my business, my personal business of Brett Nelson Incorporated or Name Yourself Incorporated operate every day? And how can I create structure to create less VUCA? Why would you do that yourself? Create more VUCA for yourself, more volatility, more uncertainty, more conflict in your life by just saying, I don't like having structure. I feel like I'm being constrained. Really? You like the uncertainty, huh? It's great and it's a rush. Man, it's tough and it's an uphill battle. So here's a couple things you can do. First of all, be very clear on the things you can control. Go back to our comment about clarity here. There's a lot of things that, especially in a business run by a matrix organization, that there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of things that are going back and forth, and lots of different people and touches and points. And so there's a lot of already unstructured organization, and that's just the fun chaos of being a part of a big organization. So asking yourself, again, looking at your circle of control, or the things that are within the things you can control, and say, what are the structures of the things that I can do every day that I have 100% control over, that I can do, that I choose this behavior today, I choose this activity today, and I get that accomplished. Allowing the whirlwind, sometimes people call it, or even the big giant hairball that happens in matrix organizations, just by being big, by being a big organization, it's going to happen anyway. So control what you can. Do your best to create less VUCA for yourself. So this is what I would suggest doing, is as you sit down and create structure for yourself, list out every day 4 to 5 critical tasks per day. That's it. Now you would say, well, I gotta be plug in. We've been told to work, 9-10-hour days. You're right. 4 to 5 critical tasks. And allow yourself to say, that is the absolute critical, based upon my goals, based upon the directionals, based upon my OKRs or my big objectives for the year. What are the 4 to 5 things that I can do today that will move me in that direction? And then allow the rest of the day to fill up with the hairball, if you will, or the mess, or more VUCA that's created, or the challenges and the whirlwind that happens in the workplace. But I know that if I got those 4 to 5 things I've done, won the day. So think about this. So you sit down and say, what are my critical tasks for today? And ask yourself, do they align with my goals? Are my crystal clear what the things I can control? If I'm waiting on an email from somebody, that doesn't mean that's not something I can control today. If I'm accomplishing a task today, yes. If I'm doing this particular function today, yes. Something that you can start and finish within that particular day. So you may have to look at your work a little bit and break it up into pieces. So let me give you a couple examples of that. 15 outreach calls a day. Complete a part of a report or the whole report. Connect with your teams and say, if you're a leader, say, I'm going to do a 15-minute one-to-one with every single one of my people today. Organize your marketing schedule. I know there's some great work that's being going out and saying, okay, we're supposed to post on LinkedIn this day and put this article out there. Okay, I did that today. That was my critical tasks. The purpose of creating these critical tasks is to create these motions and these habits that create structure that allows us now to deal with all the uncertainty and all the other challenges that come in, because I know I got the minimum done. I got the actual core function of my work done. Include stuff that's not work-related. Eating healthy food. Say no sugar today. It's very tempting, again, when there may be the cupboard at home or the fridge at home is a little more accessible than the expensive vending machines in the office. Exercise. And I would even qualify this by just saying move. Just do some kind of movement. It's really easy to plug in and just feel like you're the captain of the ship and not move from your chair all day, but just plug in. So once you've done your 4 to 5 tasks every day, when you complete that, you've won the day. And the way we track that to create structure around that, some completion, especially on projects that don't necessarily have a terminal date, is we say, I gave myself a win for the day. I got a W. I've won the day. The goal of this then is we start winning this, we start recording our winning record as you win every single day. Well, you know what? Let me show you right here. This is mine for last week. Well, I had a pretty bum week last week, but I had 3 wins and 2 losses. So I look at that and say, you know what? If I had 2 losses, I can still get into the UEFA Cup. I can still win the Champions League with 2 losses. You can ask some of our friends that like Liverpool and other key clubs, right? The goal, my friends, is to constantly focusing on creating momentum around winning. And so how do you do that when perhaps the closed one or these deals that we're working on that are longer tails take a little bit longer? Or I'm working on projects that just seem to like, it's just another day, another process. Create it into critical tasks. What do I need to do today? 4 to 5 a day. When you've completed your 4 to 5, you win the day. All right, let's see, let's check in on questions here. Okay, yes, no more, yeah, you're right, Yvonne, no more about VUCA. Okay, last point here is right, it's creating growth. So we talked about creating clarity, creating structure. Now let's create growth for ourselves. Now again, this is a choice. Love this quote. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Now, in the spirit of VUCA, with the volatility, uncertainty, and everything that comes along, the ambiguity that comes, is we've got to be prepared for a world that we don't even know exists. And so the way we do that is create a mindset of learn and want to be learned. There's some phrases I've heard before that we're saying sometimes we don't want to learn because we feel like we've arrived at this, or maybe we're now questioning some of the things that we knew before, and it's kind of scary. Yeah, it can be. It can be scary to learn new things. So, but the point of that, though, is we're fighting that VUCA, to rise above that VUCA as created situations where we're constantly learning. So what I would invite you to do is you start looking at this and say, I'm feeling the volatility, I'm feeling the uncertainty, is challenge some assumptions. Well, I've never done that. I can't do that. Or that's not an option for me. Or I chose a different path. Challenge your assumptions. Challenge ways of thinking. Challenge your opinions. I was listening to a podcast this morning, and the psychologist was talking about, she was walking down the street of New York, and she said she had some strong opinions about this restaurant and this business. And she said, you know what? I've actually never really questioned that opinion. I've always just had that. But she says right now, where we're taking a massive pause in a lot of the ways that we do things, it's a great time for me to question and challenge my own opinions, to break out of my own paradigms and my own thinking, because I may be limiting myself. I may be having self-limiting beliefs towards this particular area or a function or a skill or a competency that's something that I thought I could never do. Another guy I follow quite a bit has written a book recently that was told, he's 36 years old and he's a tall guy, he's probably 6'5", and was told his entire life that he could never run long distances because he was too tall to run. Too tall to run? Interesting. So he challenges assumption. Being a lifelong learner is one of those areas that say, I'm above the VUCA, because you know what, if it's ambiguous, I'm going to learn about it. I'm going to figure out ways to make it less ambiguous or a little less complex. and break it down. One of the ways you can do that is conduct a personal gap analysis. Here's where I am today. Here's where I'd like to be, or here's who I fancy myself to be. What's the gap? And it could be competencies, it could be networks, it could be relationships, it could be experiences. I know some great people that are especially in the APAC region, that say, you know what, we just figure it out, we get it done. I didn't have any clarity for me, so I created clarity for myself through education, through seeking out opportunities outside of learning, putting myself in networks, conducting a personal gap analysis of say, here's where I was here, and here's where she wanted to be, and she closed the gap, or is working on closing the gap. Well, what'll happen, my friends, if we're not clear on those goals, starts with number one, is that clarity of saying, if I'm not clear on those goals, that gap gets bigger and bigger and bigger and becomes scarier and scarier and scarier. And again, we start thinking about focusing on things that are outside of our control. And then the structure goes away because we're not actually working towards anything any given day. And essentially we freeze. And it's a natural behavior of humans. So conduct a personal gap analysis. Where am I now? Where do I want to be? Learn. I mean, never in the history of the world have we have access to so much information, so much that in fact our salespeople get scared a little bit at times. So sometimes our clients know a little bit more about our product or solutions than we do. So I would challenge you again, challenge your assumptions, challenge your thinking, learn to create different sides of your brain. If you're more of a logical processor, think about how can I be more of tap into my creative. If I'm way too creative, or I've got that really tap into my right brain, maybe I need to transition some of that creative thinking into process and create some structure around that. Find and seek ways to learn. Podcasts, books, Connect and Learn sessions. LinkedIn Learning's got a lot of resources. Just Google a topic and read about it. Watch your filters, okay? So here's a couple other ideas about how to create growth. Manage by walking around. Now, in a situation where we're not necessarily homebound or digital, I would actually do this. If you're a manager and you haven't walked around and walked a mile in the shoes of your people that you're leading, you're missing a trick. You're missing an opportunity. You're probably a little bit disconnected from what they do every single day. But we can do that digitally by the digital check-ins on one-to-one. Read non-work books. It's okay. You can think outside. You don't have to be programmed and just say, if you really dig the stuff that you're working with, fantastic. I'm not saying not to read. What I'm challenging to say is, why don't you read other stuff? If I asked you right now, what kind of novels do you like to read? I would struggle to answer that question right now, personally. So I'm taking my own advice. Play games, journal, and then go back and read your journals. It's a very fantastic way to get started with the day. Sit down and say, how am I feeling today? What I found generally is after you journal for about 10 minutes, you kind of go through your diary of saying, here's my report back of what happened. Once you start going back to that 10-minute mark, 10, 15-minute mark of journaling, is actually now you get into some parts of your brain that they didn't actually think existed. And some of that existential thinking, some of that outside of the box thinking comes out right after that 10 minutes. So if you're going to journal, take some time, like invest more than 5 minutes of just saying, dear diary, I went to a meeting today, or I went on 5 web conferences. Think a little bit outside of that. Learn a new instrument or language. Exercise, bringing that one up again. Movement. Create growth from yourself. Challenge yourself. Do something you've never done before. What we're doing here, my friends, is we're saying, because the VUCA there, I don't have time now to worry about the things that are outside of my control. I don't have time now to be concerned about all the things that I can't control, all the volatility, the complexity, and the all uncertainty that's existing right now, because I am so engaged and so focused on A, meeting my goals, B, working my process and working the problems that I have every day by winning the day and focusing on creating momentum every single day. And I'm growing. In all my time that I have extra, I'm focusing on growing relationships, growing myself, all the above. I just don't have time. All right. I love this. And I'm taking this a little bit out of context, but it's kind of right? The time will pass anyways. Why not use it to be your best? It's going to happen. working remotely, working in a situation where the market's crazy right now, oil prices are down, time's gonna pass regardless. What are you doing right now to invest that time, to create more clarity, focusing on your structure, focusing on growth? It's gonna pass anyways. You might as well invest it the best you can. The VUCA world, I love this image, right? It's one of our cities. I live in the mountains, and during the winter time, you have what's called the inversion, where the clouds hold the pollution down, and you get right above it, and there's a physical line you can see between the pollution that hits on the mountains and the stuff that's above it. In a city context, you know that. It's that haze that sits over the city, but those skyscrapers are above that. My friends, I'm inviting you to come along with me on the journey. The VUCA world's going to happen. It's spinning as fast as it can. It's probably going to get faster. Your choice about how to create opportunities for yourself, to create clarity on your goals, to create structure around what you do, about creating growth opportunities, or putting yourself on top of those skyscrapers, above the VUCA, above the fog, above the pollution, above all the people that are running around ragged with crazy because they're lacking those areas. There's enough room for all of us to be successful and to be above it. And I'm inviting you to come along with me on that. So remember, as we recap this, 3 keys to rise up and win the day: create clarity, create structure, and create growth. And so with that, here's my challenge. I'm going to challenge you over the next 45 days. The end of the quarter, end of Q2, which starts your H2, starts on June 1st. And that's about 45. It's really more like 47 days technically from today. 45-day challenge. Post a picture on your Instagram, Facebook, Infonet, something positive every day. What we're doing here is setting our filter, looking for opportunities to celebrate the awesome, celebrate the positive that's in your life. And it could be just the fact that, look, I've got a full Diet Coke, or I had my favorite tea today. Post a picture of something awesome. Move 30 minutes every day. Drink more water. Now that's my challenge. You find up drinking so much water, but it's so healthy for you. Your body needs the water to process. Okay? Read 2 books in 45 days and finish the 45-day challenge with a winning percentage. And so what that means to do is you're saying, I'm sitting down and looking at my critical task list, and don't make it a to-do list. It's just pages after pages after pages, and I have to make a to-do list about another to-do list. It's 4 to 5 every day, and I win the day. Are you going to have some losses? Yeah, absolutely. It's going to happen to all of us. Then I review and adjust for the next day, rewrite my list, and if I start creating some momentum with winning, then I want to win again. So post a picture every day, something positive, move 30 minutes every day, drink 2 liters of water, read 2 books over the next 45 days, and focus on finishing with a winning percentage. The time's going to pass, my friends. I'm inviting you to come along with me. I'm going to anchor in with this quote today. You have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself in any direction you choose. I love this because we get to make that choice. VUCA is going to be there. The world's going to spin fast. It is what it is. You choose each day on how you respond to the world. And so I'm going to invite you to rise up and reach that potential for you, for yourself first, which in turn, by you doing that and me doing that and Krishna doing that and all of our partners doing that together, we bring all of us up together. So with that, I'm going to wrap up and see if there's any questions.